I got a new credit card, new business credit card. I'm like, dude, if you're brand new, get the card, be responsible, spend in the marketing, you will get a deal. So like the recipe I tell people is like, look, the hardest part is to find the deal because we're all looking for that. If you could spend money finding that, and then you could just bring it to the people who know what to do and they'll take it from there. I met a kid like 3 months ago. He's like, I don't have any money. I'm like, do you know anyone $50,000? He goes like, yeah. I'm like, well, now you have $50,000. You just need to bring that guy with $50,000, something worth for him to put the 50K in. That's it. Go learn that and then come back to him. Welcome to another episode of the Straight Up Chicago podcast. I am your guest.
Investor podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Straight Up Chicago Investor Podcast. I am your guest, Aram Ghazaryan, and with me, as always, your hosts, Tom and Mark.
The walk-up intro. I'm ready to roll.
I love it, dude. This guy's an Instagram guy, so we got to have fun with that once these come out, man.
All right, so those were good. In all seriousness, though, a lot of gems in this episode.
So many gems, and what I think is so important is how much progress he made. I think we're looking at a 26-month window. So he was episode 131, and we're right around. This will be, I don't know, episode 240 or something like that. So what he did in 2 years, I mean, other people would kill to be in the same position. But a lot of it was what we're going to talk about today, just kind of put himself out there and be able to, think about the end in mind. Like, and that's very cliche, but like he would basically think about what he's trying to accomplish and then kind of back into the details versus everyone else gets stuck on the details.
Yeah, and like people would say like, oh, I can't do this, I can't do this. No, it's how. How is this possible? Like, I forgot what the quote is, but david put a gun to your head and said, I'm going to kill you unless this happens in 30 days. You figure out a way to do it
Every
in 30
time.
days, right? Like,
put your kid in that. Your kid's getting kidnapped at 5 today. You'll figure out how to do it. Like,
yeah, like you will figure it out if there's enough urgency, and most people don't have that urgency. They need to be pushed against the wall or whatever it is.
Exciting episode, man, and I can't wait to dive right in. But let's go with the Chicago or the landlord tip.
All right, well, that's you, sir.
All right,
so, I know you called me Mark, but you still have to do the housing provider tip.
That's why I was accused. All right, so this came up for us the other day, and this is a new law that's this year, so I want to revisit it. If a tenant comes to you and says request to have electric put in for their electric vehicle in the car, you cannot deny their right to do it. You don't have to pay for it as a landlord, but you have to allow them to do it. They have to get your approval. They have to get permits. They have to do everything by the books. And you can, if you want to even collect money in order to make sure, I call it extra deposit to make sure they restore it by removing it or whatever at the end, which I don't know. I think it adds value if someone's going to add that into your place. But you cannot tell people, no, you cannot do it. That's the new law that came out January 1st, and you just have to be careful, make sure that you don't do that.
Well, I'll piggyback there. You know, a lot of times, like let's say it's a 3-unit building, there's usually only 3 panels. That first floor is paying the common and the garage. You should be always getting the 4th panel, right? That shouldn't be on that person. But now that's a real bill now, right? Like that definitely needs its own panel there. So,
but I've asked that question as well too for city buildings because now that's something you could tell the tenant, hey, if we could do this, but it's gonna be at your cost, and you're gonna have to upgrade this because they'll need a separate service because we don't have a common area meter. Which at that point, more than likely they're not gonna do it. But I know a guy that actually got him to throw in some money. The guy was able to add the 4th unit, 4th meter, and become legit. So everyone kind of won. He kind of good timing. So
yeah. All right, let's bring our guest in today. So our guest today, young and done a ton. He's already retired as an agent. So agent to flipper, owner of multiple properties, looking to buy more. Without further ado, Aram Ghazaryan, welcome to the show.
Happy to be back. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, 2 years. So Episode 131, it's been a while. We got a lot to cover.
We do, yeah.
If you haven't heard his story, coming from Armenia and just coming to the United States, taking advantage of the opportunity, it's a great one. Go back and listen to it. We're not going to recap there. We're going to go from 2 years ago to now because you've had a complete transformation.
Oh, yes.
I think of you every time I eat a banana because I know I'm so grateful.
The banana story?
Yeah.
Nice.
So episode 131, if anyone wants to know about the banana story.
Beautiful callback.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so at that time, you were literally doing your first flip.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, I'm just doing it. And like on the air in that episode, you're talking about, I made 10 trips to Home Depot. I'm over budget. Like what everyone goes through with their first project.
Yep.
So I guess let's start there. Do you remember how that one turned out?
Yes. So when I was doing it, I'm like, this is the dumbest way to make money. I'm stressed out. I'm probably not going to make any money on this. And like I said, I was over budget, 20 grand, I think. And we ended up selling it for, by the grace of God and the good market, for $336, which netted me about $41,000.
All right, so we're still positive on
We're
this
still
thing.
positive, and I split with my investor. So I made 20, he made 20, everybody was happy.
What was the plan?
The plan was to make around 60.
Okay.
Oops. But we had good margins, so it fortunately worked out.
Yeah.
And then since then, I'm like, I'm never flipping again. So I went and bought 2 apartment buildings. And then I owned those 2 apartment buildings. And I realized, well, how am I supposed to buy more if I don't make any money actively, right? So I wanted to retire from being an agent and get into investing, but it was impossible to do without active income. So that's where I brought the flipping back, and now I'm doing 10 flips this year.
Well, you bought the 2 apartment buildings. Talk to us about kind of where they're at, how you went about financing, how you went about finding them and financing them.
Yeah.
Because
So I got lucky. So when I sold that flip, I was sitting on 265 in my account without, the investors didn't want their money back. They're like, just do it again. I was like, okay, well now I have $265,000. What's the best way to invest this? Because I was still making active income as a realtor at the time. So I'm like, okay, because flipping isn't it. I'm going to be broke for the rest of my life. I just worked 6 months to make $40,000 or $20,000, right? So I started looking on the MLS, do some research, and it seems like commercial real estate is the way to go. Like the more doors I have, the richer I'll be, right? So I ended up finding 7 units 2 months later in LaGrange Park.
Okay.
And I was like, well, this is a great market. Why is this? It was on the market for like 85 days. I'm like, why is anyone buying this? Looked at the rents. You're in property management, right? So right away, I'm like, these are like $300 below market, even 4. So I bought it, and then the first day of owning it, I raised all the rents like $400. Everybody stayed. I'm like, wow, this is nice. I'll do it again.
Easy.
This is so great. I just refi my money out in a year and keep doing this every single year, right? And so this was 22. 2 weeks after I closed on that, the neighbor calls me, who was the attorney that represented the seller when I bought it, said, I want to sell my building too. I had no money, nothing left at least, and never really raised capital like traditionally. So I'm like, I'll buy that too. So I reached out to like one of my clients whose sale fell through, and I knew he had 180,000. So I'm like, hey man, bad news, you couldn't get your loan because he had 1099 income and not enough taxable. I was like, but you can help me buy the 6 unit together. 7, I apologize. And he's like, sure, I'm in. So I raised 160,000 on the sidewalk of that building, and then we ended up buying that one. So I put in 40, he put in 160. We bought it, so I own that as well. And couldn't refinance because all the lending laws changed completely. So I couldn't get any. I was able to raise capital to find apartment buildings and buy them, but I couldn't get the loans because the DSCR ratios would all of a sudden not hit. It's got to be 1.25. The interest rate's too high. Now they're really looking at like me as a borrower versus like you don't have the net worth to support this debt. So no matter what you do, we're not giving you this loan. And that's where the flipping had to be introduced.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but walk us through this because we're kind of glancing over this.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of our listeners don't even own a 7-unit building. We got a lot of house hackers. We got a lot of people like it's a big undertaking. So
you
talk to us
talked
just,
about it like you bought a loaf of bread.
In the moment, that's crazy.
talk to us about just getting that pile of keys, right? Like, there's a lot,
I did have a
introduce
picture of a
yourself.
bag of keys. It was so stressful. Yeah.
Like just walking through like work orders, introducing yourself to 7 new people. Like just walk us through that first month.
I'll tell you about the first day I left closing. I go to my apartment building. There's an ambulance there. Neighbor had a stroke. I mean, the tenant had a stroke. I'm like, you got to be kidding me, man. I'm selling it. That's it. So I had these, what do you call it? Estoppel letters, or I had to give the letters to the tenants, right? So I knocked on all their doors. I gave them, most of them were home, thank God. So I only left like 1 on a door. And then there's one like problem tenant I was super nervous about. And I chose that day to wear my white suit. Horrible idea. Like I'm showing up, raising everyone's rent in a tan suit. This is a bad idea. And I showed him this guy's house, and I was told he was like a drug addict. And then his mom, he basically kind of moved in with his mom. I never dealt with this. I'm like, well, this is gonna be awkward. Guy was super nice. I gave him the notice. He didn't fight me. He did not pay rent like for 3 months, and he was with me for 6. But fortunately, it was like on the lower end, and we had 6 other units paying rent, so it was an issue. And everybody else, I had 1 vacancy that I was able to renovate and rent out, because I used to do leases as an agent as well. So finding the tenant was pretty easy. And then I had 1 unit that was already renovated. The guy was leaving in a week. I painted it and listed again on the MLS for rent. The other 4 units, I just sent an email, said, hey, this is the new rent. If you'd like to stay, great. If you'd like to leave, this is your 60-day notice. And they all stayed.
Well, maybe it's you coming to this country. You talked about this in another episode. Like what we view as problems here in America is just like another day for you of like, all right, I got to figure out how to do this. All right. And I think it's very easy for us, 2nd, 3rd, 4th generation Americans to just like make a big fucking deal out of everything.
Yeah.
Like, all right, you could list a million reasons why you shouldn't buy the building.
Right.
But the one reason you want to is because you want to build wealth.
Yep.
You totally throw that out the window because you're worried about a million things might happen.
I'm worried
type
about
thing.
losing $1 million right now, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind too, every time you go to buy that building from like that, and it's a mom and pop owner on the other side, that guy or gal was able to do it.
Yeah.
Like that guy
Yeah.
who like didn't speak English, doesn't know anything, hasn't listened to a single podcast, never read a book or anything. Like he was able to do it, and
It worked in a factory job more likely.
yeah, and like
Actually,
got
yes.
7 figures at the closing. Like it's very simple. Like you could fight through it.
Well, here, you know this probably. You're in the area. All these 6 flats were all built in the 60s. And
Yeah.
a lot of them are still owned by that same generation. Those were all blue collar guys that found a way to buy the building that they lived in.
Yep.
yeah,
That's exactly what happened. The owner of the first one bought it for like $250,000, sold it to me as is, no inspection, for $730 to do nothing. And I'm sure they've been paid off for like 10 years prior to that. So I'm like, oh, okay, this definitely works, you know? And I think today, after raising, commercial, I think you guys know this too, is it's all based on the NOI, right? So because I was able to raise the NOI, now it's worth significantly more.
Yep.
So I'm actually working on the refinance finally, so I could pull the money out and go do it all over again.
So what's changed now as far as that you have the option of refinance, or what have you had to do to make that line up?
Great question. I'm actually significantly more liquid now, so I can actually show the bank, here's my financial statement, here's how much cash I have in the bank, and then they're like, okay, we can do a little bit better lending. And the
So you
rates just
became a
start coming
better
in.
borrower then.
100%, yeah. That's the part I didn't know, because I was able to raise money, which I think I'm pretty lucky to do. But then I'm like, I went to the bank, I'm like, I have $500,000 raised, that I only need $300,000 down. I have all this extra reserve, but they still wouldn't give me the loan. I'm like, why? And eventually, and my credit was good. They're like, well, you just don't have the liquidity. You are not a good borrower. So if you guarantee a loan, it doesn't mean much to us. I was like, So then I had to stop buying buildings and start flipping houses so I could stack my cash.
So let's talk about, you mentioned you stopped being a broker.
Completely, yeah.
When you were last on here, like you were growing that team, like that's who you were known as. Like,
I was
when
excited too, yeah.
Well, yeah. Like, you on Instagram, like it was you out there, like
Yeah.
I'm building my team and I'm doing all this, like so that's like a hard stop. So talk to us about ripping off the Band-Aid there.
So my whole goal of ever getting my real estate license was to eventually be a real estate investor full time, right? Figured I'd learn the industry and then dive in, I'll have an advantage. So in 2023, like about 4 months in, I was just so tired of it. I'm like, man, I gotta show all these people all these houses, and I'm burnt out. And I had like 40 active clients, but I was niched down with investors. Now, if you know anything about 2023 MLS deals, there is none to go by. So I got 40 clients that want to see like 300 houses a month that I can't even get one deal under contract. So I'm working 60 hours a week, broke. I'm like, this isn't right. And then I accidentally, so when I sold my first flip, I spent $3,000 on mailers one time, right? I got a bunch of phone calls, didn't want to do anything with it because I bought the apartment building. A year later, a guy named Randy just calls me out of the blue. I'm sitting in my car. I'm like, I'm so sick and tired of being a real estate agent. Randy calls. I got a townhouse in Schaumburg. You sent me a mailer and I want to sell it. I go there. I'm looking. I'm like, God damn, this place is in mid condition. I just need to do cosmetic rehabs. So I go. I buy it for $125. I was not too over budget on this one. So this would be the second flip. And I bought it with a hard money loan. So I really only needed $30,000. Which I had. I actually used it from the reserves from the first building. And then I ended up making $60,000 on that flip. And I worked like 12 hours. I'm like, wait. Yeah. I made $60K and I barely worked. To make $60K as an agent, you have to sell like over $2 million in real estate. That's
however many
15
showings,
transactions and 300 houses. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. So if I could make 60 grand 4 times a year, I'm good, right? I could focus on building my rental portfolio on the side a lot easier that way, right? As soon as I recognized that, I'm like, there's no way I could represent a client fully knowing that if I find a good deal, I'm just going to buy it, all right? So I said, why don't we just stop being a real estate? I stopped cold turkey, right? So it was like I literally woke up, I'm like, no more. So I stopped taking all my clients. I referred everything away. And I told everyone that was active with me, that were looking at houses every day, I'm like, can't help you no more. I'm out. I'm out the game.
I love that, dude. You basically said, because I can't trust myself to be ethical with clients.
I can't
represent anymore.
I can't do it. Because I don't want to burn no bridges, right? And you know what ended up happening? All the people that want to go on their own, they still did. I was able to connect them with people that made money. And then all the people are like, Aram, I'm only investing because you were helping me. I was like, well, I'm still investing. I could still help you, but you have to be an investor now versus a client of mine. So I'll find a deal, I'll source it, I'll bring it to you. If you want to invest in it, then we could do business together. So that's how I was able to actually scale it. Otherwise, I'd be at like one flip every 4 months.
So you raised the money, and you mentioned you tried giving the guy the money back. He didn't want to take it back. Like,
Yeah.
Talk to us about kind of that, because that is like, sounds like a dream come true for a lot of people. Were you just kind of trying to keep that money working, and you're paying these guys a percentage every month as debt?
So that was actually a unique experience. I didn't think that he wouldn't want his money back. I'm like, why wouldn't you want your money back? He was like, dude, you just made me 20 grand. I did nothing. Could you do that again 3-4 times a year with the same money? I'll be so happy. Right? I'm like, okay, well, let's figure out, because he was more of a long-term investor. So I was like, let's figure out a better way to invest 265. Because I feel like the more money you have, it's a little bit tougher to do flips when you could go into like passive income and pay less taxes and all that good stuff, right? So that's where that direction went into. And I'm sorry, what was the second part of your question?
Were you just kind of paying that investor, you just promised him a return?
He owns 50% of the first building. So he gets 50% of the profits and the cash flow and everything like that.
Gotcha.
And I manage 100% of it. One thing I did learn about whole raising money and finding investors, because when you're broke, you think like nobody has money, because I didn't have any money, right? And then you start making a little bit, and you start meeting people that have money. They're like, dude, I don't want to work. I've already worked 10 years to build up a good nest egg. If I could find a young person like you that's trustworthy, hardworking, educated, knowledgeable, skilled, that can go do the work and I can get paid, I'm in. So that's where I started like niching down with these investors, because I pay them either interest or profit share or flat return on their money, depending on whatever we're doing. And they're like, thank God you exist, because I don't want to work. And they make a good return on their money to do nothing. I want to be them when I grow up, to be honest.
Yeah, that's, you forget about your life's perception is through your own lens.
Yes.
And you don't understand what other people are thinking until it's opened up like, oh crap, like this is not a big deal. Like
someone has $250,000 doing nothing in the bank. What?
Yeah, just sitting there.
It's insane to me, right? Yeah.
All right, so talk to us then. You had sent out the mailers for the first flip. You ended up, your boy Randy calls you back.
Yeah.
So then you go cold turkey here, but it's not like you have a pipeline lined up, right?
You're right.
So you're making it sound very easy, but like it had to be a little bit nerve-wracking.
No, it was not.
Here.
So I will be honest. So that was when we closed on that deal, like mid to end of July, right? By July 1st, I was broke, right? This is 2023. I actually borrowed like $10K from one of my investors to meet the gap as like a friend. Like, hey, I need $10,000. I got bills, right? So he gave me $10,000. So when I made the 60, I paid them back. So basically, then I had about $50,000 there to kind of segue me over to the next deal. And full transparency, I had one listing between when I quit and now. And that's because it was like an old town listing for $520,000. I had to show up one time, make 12 grand. Okay. Yep. And it was a good client of mine. So that's the only one I took. And so that helped me out a lot as well. And that year, actually, I was able to do another flip, which was what kind of got me to the finish line.
Let's talk about getting the next flip, because I got to believe you're hungry as hell here, right? Like this is like, some people out there, I'm going to look at the MLS, I'm going to try to find a deal. Like this is, not so dramatic, but like life and death here. Like we need something.
It was life and death. So what I did was I got a new business credit card that had like a $9,000 limit. And I called the same mailing company. I said, well, it worked the first time. Let's spend $9,000 this time and see what happens, right? So I called him back. It was no interest. So I'm like, I got 12 months to make the money back, right? So I called the guy back, and it took about 30 days from when I called him, which was, in hindsight, I should have called him way sooner. But I called him as soon as we closed. And then like by around end of August, the mailers went out. And just again, by luck, I think, boom, I get a call. I have a house in Crystal Lake. Sure. I drive over there. I'm like, I'll give you $147. He agrees. And then on the way back, I'm like, okay, I don't have $147,000. So, and
details.
I
have $147,000 now. It's a timing thing.
In the future, I got it. But this man needs it in 2 weeks. I told him cash, no hard money. I'm like,
but most people would never even go to that appointment because they're afraid that they're gonna that's the balls that you got on you. If like you figure out what you got to do, and then you back into it. I figured
if I don't have a deal, why am I raising money?
I love it, dude. I love it.
And I think that's such a good point. That is why people can't raise money. Because if I come to say, Mark, I need $150,000 because I want to start flipping houses, you're gonna be like, okay, well, you have like a deal? Like, how does this work? And then you're like, well, no, but I'm gonna get into it. Like, you really can't. You're like, have like a in the air conversation versus I call you like, dude, I got a house in Crystal Lake, $147,000, needs 30 grand worth of work. I can sell it for $260. You in? And he's like, Yeah, I'm in. It's so much easier to do it that way.
Because you're able to paint the picture. You actually are able to paint a payday for the investor.
Yes. Yes.
All the way through the vision.
It's
120 days from now, I'm
tangible.
going to hand you this check or whatever.
And that's exactly what happened. So, and then also I have an idea of like people that I would reach out to.
Yeah.
So that's why I had a little bit more confidence. And so when I left that meeting, I was one person I wanted, like, when I raise money, there's just a specific person I want money from because I know it's best for that specific deal. So I called him, I gave him a sweetheart of a deal. It was like 60% of the profits or the first $25,000. So either way, he was going to make anywhere from like minimum 10% on his money to 25.
Yep.
He ended up making 25%. So he was very happy.
Talk to us about the mailers.
Yeah.
Right. What $9,000 is a lot. You'd say,
Ton, yeah.
How many? Like, were you doing multiple rounds? Were you doing just
Yeah.
one blast? Geographically, what were you targeting? Like, for our
Yeah.
listeners who've never done mailers, give us
So
some
I
insights.
literally just copied and pasted what I did the first time. So whatever the demographic was, the guy who called me is the exact demographic I used. I'm like, all right, that guy owned less than 3 properties. That guy had a townhouse and he owned it for 15 years. So I called the mailing company and it's like a white glove service. So they pulled the list for me. I said, pull this list and what's the average that people got to do to get a deal? It's like 2,500 mailers a month. I said, perfect. We're doing that every single month. So we did a 3-month campaign. It was actually $8,000, not 9. And so it was 3,000 mailers every single month that cost me around 2,600, 2,800, something like that, plus whatever the list was.
Yep.
And I actually got 2 deals from that campaign. One was the Crystal Lake that made us, the net profit on the deal was 55 before investor got paid. And then I actually got like a random one that called me in Hoffman Estates. It was like a 52-day flip from start to finish that I was able to buy, fix within 9 days, list it, and sell it for 28,000 profit. And that one I did, okay, you know what? I should backpedal. So when I did that first flip, I also realized, okay, I still want to buy apartment buildings, but this liquidity thing is becoming a big problem for me, right? And even if I start making money as a flipper, the liquidity is still a problem because the second I start using my flipping money, I stop being liquid, right? So I either have to literally live like a monk or I need to solve it somehow. And I reached out to one person I know whose dad has a Roth IRA doing nothing. And he was pulling from the Roth IRA and it was getting us 5% return annually. And I think it was just basically going down because the stock market was also going down, right? So I'm like, hey, man, I'll pay you 12% a year on that money if you want. I mean, you're getting 5 right now, so it's way better than what you're getting. And he agreed. I was like, I'll be damned.
But this is not a deal, so you gotta pay that every month, regardless if there's a deal
Every
or not.
month, regardless of a deal or not, right?
Yeah.
But this is where like everything does, I swear to God, divine intervention. So I got that, I reached out to him beginning of October because it was another 12 unit I had under contract that I raised $450,000 to buy. Bank told me the same thing. You're not liquid. I said, I'm so sick of this, man. You know, like, so I reached out to him.
liquid today.
I'm like, just give me a break. But I have like $500,000 in equity in the 2 buildings, but they don't care. I'm like, dude, the building alone will cover this debt. Give me a break. Anyhow, we digress. So I reached out to him and I asked for 200K. I was expecting to get like 100. He's like, okay, we'll do it. I'm like, for how much? He's like, 200. I'm like, yeah, duh. So, and I said, and I told him I can't use the money until there's a 60-day seasoning period where the banks will be like, well, where'd you get this money from, right? So I worked in a 60-day window where I actually didn't have a payment due. So I got the money end of October, first payment was due January 1st. That Hoffman Estates flip closed November 1st. I bought it, December 22nd, I closed it. So I actually made all of the first year's money before I even had my first payment due.
There you go.
And then I just initially was going to use that money. It's just sitting in the bank because I can raise money from investors to do the flips. But I'm like, why? When I can start putting it into the flips and keeping more of the profits myself. And then here we are. So the plan keeps changing every day, man.
Well, here, one thing I want to highlight.
Yeah.
You found an opportunity. Did you get mailed that credit card? Did you go look for that credit card? 0 interest? Like that's huge. Like
I think
everyone has that access.
That one does have access, which I don't realize why most people don't, especially like new investors. I'm like, dude, if you're brand new, get the card, be responsible, spend it in the marketing, you will get a deal, right? I think I had, just because I knew a little bit about credit, and back when I was a realtor, the balance transfer game was how I stayed in business. Yeah. So I would basically like, okay, what other card is giving me no interest for the longest so I could balance transfer over so that way my credit isn't shot. And I'm like, okay. And then when I applied for when I got my first flip, I got a business credit card. I was like, okay, well, they gave me $7,000 no interest. I just used to buy materials. And then when I was buying this second flip, I set up a new LLC. I was like, I wonder if I can get that credit card again. Right? And I was able to get 9,000. So that's right. That's right.
When you start an LLC, this I always tell people is to get it set up. You get a whole bunch of slew of those options. Or the next trigger is if you go open a bank account. So if you LLC, you start it, then you start the bank account for the LLC, you'll get a whole nother round of credit card.
It's so beautiful. Yeah. I will say one lesson I learned is if you don't have a banking relationship with them, they will probably deny your card right away. So with Chase, I've never been denied a single credit card because that's where my checking accounts are. Even when I had no money, they still approved me. Went to Bank of America, better credit, better income, got denied. I'm like, how is this even possible?
They gave me a $500 credit limit.
Did they?
Yeah, I know. I was like, dude, I can't even do it. Like,
honestly,
I have one payment.
them.
I'm above my 75. You hurt my
I can't
credit.
even put gas in my car for a month. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, and then American Express has been really good. So like the recipe I tell people is like, look, the hardest part is to find the deal because we're all looking for that. If you could spend money finding that, and then you could just bring it to the people who know what to do and they'll take it from there, right? And if you don't have 9,000, the bank will give it to you. Just work hard to pay it out, you know?
Yeah, it's you got to be responsible. You got to, but at some point you also got to jump in, right? Like
Yes.
it's just there's too many people, and I think part of it too is like that person listening right now who has like a white collar job. They're like, oh, that's insane. Like I'm not going to go do that, right?
Yeah.
You almost need your back pushed against the wall to be like,
You kind of have to.
here we go.
There's
Like,
so many people that are listening right now that that they want to do they want that $10,000, but this is like their answer. But like they never realize it's there, or they don't want to use their own capital. It's like, man, this is such a.
well, the other part of the coin too is like you can partner. Right, like
partner,
like if you have the nice white collar job, like there's someone out there who will do the stuff that you're not willing to do. Like partnerships work in all shapes and forms.
Yeah.
That's
right?
such
Like
a cheat code. Just finding people that bring something to the table that you cannot, and then doing it together is so much easier, right?
Yep.
I always tell people if like someone, I met a kid like 3 months ago. He's like, I don't have any money. I'm like, do you know anyone $50,000? He goes like, yeah. I'm like, well, now you have $50,000. You just need to bring that guy with $50,000, something worth for him to put the 50K in. That's it. So go learn that and then come back to him, you know?
Yeah. One thing we kind of glossed over, contractors, right?
Yes.
Like flipping a
Yes.
house, like
Are you still using the father and son team?
Yeah, I sure am.
You are. I wrote that as a question because you loved them in that first
I
flip.
still love him. Shout out to he actually so the son ended up starting to doing his own thing, and I mostly work with the son because we're the same age. So now we have done every single project that we've done has been with him, Lux Renovations, and he's been involved in every deal I've ever done.
Oh, that's awesome.
And now we're business partners. Actually, we're doing flips together,
There we
which is
go.
even cooler. It's like I have a project manager that I don't have to pay for it. That's all the work.
Both me and him. I mean, that's how we started. We have the partner that's the contractor guy, and we're the
Yeah.
spreadsheet people. Like
also just having him vested, like he's gonna get 3 plumbing quotes. Right? Like they're always gonna look out for your back, but then when it's their money on the finish line, like it's
huge
just
difference.
Yes,
Huge
it's
difference,
You
yeah.
have everyone's incentive aligned. It's just human nature. Everyone's gonna
Yeah.
be that much more dialed in.
the idea of solving a problem in days versus weeks is like
Crazy.
I mean,
Yeah.
the dollar amount that saves you over a bunch of deals.
So true.
So, all right. So these first couple flips, talk to us like this is all like a great story. We're off the ground. We're running here. But talk to us about, in hindsight, some of the things like, crap, I shouldn't have done that. Whether it been going
Yeah.
over budget, design decisions, whatever. Like, give us something you would have changed in hindsight.
In hindsight, that first time I was getting materials, I would always source my own. I should have got my own cabinets and my own countertops, because I think you could get those on Facebook Marketplace through directly to the wholesalers a lot cheaper. What's another mistake I made? That's tough because I've been very lucky. All these deals worked out. Maybe overpaying on some of these properties, so my margins weren't as good because I was so eager to get it. Like I don't want to like risk losing this deal, so I'll pay an extra $5,000. But if you do 10 deals a year, if that's $50,000 I may have left on the table, right? And sometimes just like the little things I'm so careless about. If it's $100, whatever. I'll put down my personal card because I don't want to switch it over from the Amazon thing. Like little things like that I think are definitely going to pile up. And then in the beginning, tracking my expenses. My God, it was the most excruciating thing in the world. Because when you're doing one flip, every charge on that credit card is for that one flip. The second I'm doing 2 at a time, I'm like, oh God.
And then you bought things for one on one receipt on accident because it was easier.
So that's exactly what happened. I bought floors for both properties. I bought the same floor for both properties and some tile. Now I'm sitting there, I'm like, I spent $4,000, but what is what? Oh man, I was so. And then if you have a profit share split with your investors, that could get dicey.
Yeah.
And I got lucky; those weren't profit share splits. But I was like, oh God. That stressed me out. So now I have I'm the spreadsheet guy now. I have everything dialed in. I have every penny tracked for, so that way I know exactly how much money I made. Especially when I did my taxes, it counts like, so what happened here? I'm like, give me 2 hours. I'm gonna go over here, come right back. Yeah.
Are you using just a spreadsheet or are you using any sort of software or anything like that?
Right now, just a spreadsheet. because we're doing 10, it's really not that complicated yet. But eventually, maybe I might do some softwares.
Yep. All right. So are we still doing mailers for dealers?
Absolutely.
All right. How's that going? Same.
Phenomenal. So I do about 2-3 month campaigns a year, and I always just end up getting anywhere from like 3 to 5.
Same mail house, same original guy you've been
Same everything, yeah, same everything. They're a little slow. It takes forever to get the campaigns out, but when you get them out, they definitely work. We just bought a house. So this year I bought 5 from the mailers alone, and I've spent on mailers maybe $16K, $18K, but those 5 are probably going to profit me $200,000 almost.
And walk us through just like, again, for someone who hasn't gone through the process before, walk us through like, all right, how many calls can you expect? How many dead end leads? How do you handle the window shopper? Just like, oh, you're gonna buy my house? What will you give me?
Yeah.
Like, talk to us just about some of those. There's a lot in between here, right?
So let me give you like the
walk us through the whole thing. The funnel.
The actual mailer isn't like we'll buy your house. It's a check, which I love because now we have a benchmark for where we're starting from, right? And then they let you choose whether you want to offer 70% of the median household, whatever prices are. I do 85%, so I get more calls. So if someone picks up the phone and calls me on that mailer, they're already accepting less than generally houses around them are selling for. So I'm getting pretty warm leads right off the bat. So not too many tire kickers. A lot of them just want what's on that check. And I'll say, no problem, but I have to come see the house. If it's in great shape, on 2 occasions, I've paid more than that check. Because I'm like, oh, this needs like $5,000 worth of work.
And the mail house they're able to template that out where they're mailing it out and they're pulling that data based on the, wow, that's great.
When I found that, I was like, this is incredible.
We had Mike Kehoe on, I can't remember what episode, but he has the same thing. He does it for apartment buildings in North Carolina, and they have whatever software they buy. It says, it's an offer. It comes like a 3-page offer of like, this is what we're going to offer, subject to due diligence period, but same thing. You get
it's
the
like
calls
a check at the bottom.
That's cool.
It's like almost like the IRS has sent you a refund.
Yeah.
A few people call it like, I don't want to cash it. I'm like, thank you, because I can't lose $200,000 randomly. Because it says this is not a check somewhere in very small fonts, right? But so when they call, I already have the benchmark. So then I get the address, the bedroom count, like the spec of the house, and I set an appointment right away. Right? It's usually within a day or 2 from when they called me, sometimes day of.
And your goal is to get out there as fast as you can.
As fast as you make possible. And then I just do my comps in between. So when I get there, I already kind of know in my head. I've done enough rehabs. I'm like, okay, I know this is going to cost me about $40K, maybe like $5K off usually, right? And I'm like, okay, I know what I can afford to pay. And then we kind of negotiate from there. Did I miss anything?
No, I guess, how about the person where you can only offer like, half of what the check is a huge discrepancy. Talk to us about those conversations.
So those are tough, right? And a lot of them would be like, nah, I'm not interested. No, I want more. I have better offers or something like that. I literally just had one. A guy had a portfolio of a bunch of houses and he wanted 180, 200 of them. I'm like, dude, I can give you 60,000. He goes like, I'm like, well, how am I going to make any money if I give you 180? So a lot of it is like, a few people have given me death threats, I will say. I get a few calls. Like I had some guy say he's going to put money on my head. That was an interesting call. And a few people said, you're a scumbag. I'm like, dude, just throw it away.
Yeah.
So those, I don't really deal with those. Because, I mean, listen, if you're going to call and insult me, like, I'm not really interested in that.
Well, I get it. I like, sometimes I get a call like, you're wasting my time with this mailer. And I was like, this phone call definitely took longer than just throwing it out.
You left a 45-second voicemail. Just rip it and go home. Like, it's not like I don't get the same mailers every day.
Listen, I know you hate me now. You're really going to hate me after I say this.
When I see the house, it's going to be crazy. But a lot of them are super nice because if they call me, they already like the offer. I'd say 90% already like the offer. And that's when I get there. It's like, how bad of condition is this in, right? And I'm usually able to get whatever the price is, and I try to get 20K less than that, right? That's usually where the math always ends up. And they've been super easy. A lot of my sales are like lay down closes. There was one lady that wouldn't budge though. She had me up $19,000 for no reason. I was trying to get it for $130. It was an Oak Lawn, double lot, 3-bed, 1 bath. And I was like, we can't pay more than $135 for this. I go in at $130. She's like, no. I'm like, damn. She's like, I got somebody coming right now. She already offered $150. And that's where I'm like, I get a little anxious. I'm like, I don't want to lose this deal for some stupid stuff, right? And we paid $149.
There you go.
But you're consistent in your messaging. So in the last episode you're on with us, you talked about expectations.
Yeah.
And it was with buyers and them not being realistic. But this is similar. That check is setting, you said it already, a baseline.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is those people already know what's wrong with their house. They know they haven't replaced that furnace. They know those peeling things. So it's really easy to simply take off market costs for those things, which is higher than probably what you could get it done for.
Yep.
So you're actually even building a little more margin there for yourself.
Oh God, yes.
But that that level of expectation set there right from the get-go, because a lot of times I know a lot of wholesalers, they show up and it's like they think their house is 300 and this is only 150. So like they're wasting their time at that point.
Yeah. I did see, I have a few wholesaler friends that we haven't done any business yet, but I asked them like, so how do you know you're not wasting your time? Because I have wasted my time, right? They're like, well, I always ask them, we're going to be in the ballpark of this figure. Is that good with you? But with the mailers, that doesn't have to do that. But with have cold callers that call, so it's like I always ask them, what range are you trying to be in? And I'm like, we're gonna be around 200,000. Does that work for you? If they say yes, we're out there. If they say no, I'm on 400,000. I'm like, wait, hang up the phone.
Yeah. All right. So talk to us a little about just has anything gone wrong? I guess let me take a step back. Flips.
Yeah.
20 to 80K rehab. It sounds like, right?
Yeah.
That's usually about where you're at.
I even do less than that. So I like to keep it under 60K.
Okay.
So my like buy box is I want to be in and out so quick. Like I do 3 to 4 months, only cosmetic, smaller homes. So I know I'm not going to get any surprises, right? And usually the rehabs are anywhere from 30 to 45,000, usually where I'm at most of the time. And I love them, man. They're super easy to do. And I buy the same materials every time, almost the same amount. It's the same square footage. So I kind of know like ballpark which each bathroom is going to take me.
Well, I follow you on Instagram, and
Yeah.
anyone that's not, we'll definitely link to that because you are entertaining as all hell.
I try.
I think I saw something recently about permits. You gotta stop
got
work.
me, man.
You gotta stop work order. Share about that.
Now, I'll never admit that I don't pull permits on every job. I pull permits on every job. Have you still on camera?
Yeah.
So when the cosmetic rehabs, I think this is where there's like, if I get caught because I didn't pull a permit to put cabinets in, I feel like they're gonna be a little bit easier on me than if I'm adding a bathroom and they're like, buddy, are you dumb? You don't know you need a permit for this? So Hanover Park, the week we're gonna finish, like 2 days, I would have been done with that. They would have walked in and said, what remodel? We just had cleaning ladies in here, right? Dude shows up. I think he was inspecting some, I don't know what it was, the fire department actually. They're inspecting the fire hydrant. I don't know what they were doing. They saw us working. They showed up. I'm like, hey, what's going on here? And then they ding me for a bathroom and kitchen remodel. I'm like, okay, well, let's go through this process. Because I got caught once before, but I got so lucky because my property was on a border between 2 cities, and the wrong inspector showed up. Yeah. Right? So I was in Haynesville. The Round Lake guy showed up, and he tagged me, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. My house is good. You don't even have authority here to be in my house. So he actually went and took the thing out, so I didn't have to deal with any problems. That was a pretty easy fix. But this time, I had to, dry it out, call a plumber to install a dishwasher. I was so pissed off. So that cost me an extra like $3-4 because then they found new additional problem. I got to change all my outlets to what do you call tap proof or what's that?
GFCI.
Tamper proof. Those are extra. I didn't know because I don't buy those usually, right? And then I failed the second inspection because they wanted me to change my air filter, exhaust something out of the ceiling, fix a roof hole, and air duct cleaning. So that blew another week. So long story, 3 weeks behind schedule just because these inspections and getting one guy out there that's licensed to do all the work. It's
my first one I ever got busted for no permits was Hanover Park as well too.
Really?
I bought an REO and it had a finished basement.
Yeah.
But it had 2 bedrooms on there. So I'm like, I got a 5-2. Like, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
But ultimately they came in, they said, unless you're having a second egress, the big ass window wells, that you can't make these bedrooms. But either way, if we had a finished basement, we still had to put the window well in. So they got me for that $6,000 cost for that. And it was all because mine was my own stupidity. Our guys were just sitting there with the doors wide open and just dumpster in the driveway. Like we made some mistakes on that one.
Yeah, I learned that if I see signage on your van, if you're a contractor, you can't work for me. No.
Yeah, park in the garage. So we make a park in the garage,
man. Are you kidding me?
Our painters even just park in the garage just to be safe.
All doors and no music. Yeah. Stay silent, damn it.
But it's tough though. On a 40 grand flip, like you go over 4K, like
huge,
the margins.
Man.
The margins
That's
aren't big on this. Like this is a velocity game for you, right?
Absolutely. Average deal makes 35 to 45,000 before investors are getting paid.
Yeah, so you're getting half of that or whatever,
Exactly,
and then you gotta so that 10K hit like hurts you.
Like on this deal, to be honest, after everything's done because of the delays and everything, I'll probably make like 15,000 instead of the original 25.
Got it.
And I'm pissed off.
And on the disposition side, then, I know you don't have the agency. Are you still listing, or you have someone who does it?
So I still list. I still have my license. So all my own deals I still list. So technically, I still do 10 listings a year.
There you go.
So I'm still better than the average agent, you know. So I list them. I charge myself 1% just to keep, some revenue going to my brokerage, and then 2.5% to the buyer's agent. So I'm able to save a little bit of money there too.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. What doing like 10 of these, is the goal to do 20? Is the goal to do bigger ones? Is the goal to just keep, hey, this is good, let's keep this flow going? Like what does 2027 look like for you?
27.
Let's go ahead 3 years.
Okay, so my goal is to never be a flipper for like just the same thing with being a realtor. Flipping is almost the same thing, just a little bit easier, I guess, right? To scale, I would say. But if I did this for like 20 years, I'd be pissed off because 20 years, I got to be looking at shitty houses every single day, trying to find 10, 15, 20 deals a year just so I can make a living would bother me, right? Because I already own the apartment buildings. I've seen the upside in those. It just takes like 3 to 5 years for those to start kicking in where like every year I'm exiting and entering new properties, right? Or refining my initial capital out. So my goal, I would say in the next 3 years would be to do, I did 10 this year, maybe I'll do 15, 20 next year and then keep that pace. And maybe just increase my margins, right? Because 15, 20, I could do it, and I'm barely working. Even now at 10 flips, I feel like a little guilty because I went from working 80-hour weeks to now I'm like, I have nothing to do. Like after this, I have nothing to do, right? And just because I have like the right, I think I got very lucky with the right like GC and everything, so I don't actually have to fit. I don't even see these flips until they're done. I maybe show up one time if there's like a reason for me to be there because nobody else could deliver appliances. It's pretty much every single time why I'm there, right? Other than that, I get photos. I don't have to show up until we're done and the cleaning crew's already been through, and I list them. So that's the goal. In about 3 years or so, hoping that the commercial investments start like piling in so I can dial the flipping back, and a lot of my passive income kind of compensates for that.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So where we are right now, you still have the 2 buildings. Have you been searching for anything multi, or has this all been focused on the flips?
I put a pause on it because with the interest rates being so high, I was like, what's the point? But it seems like at least US Bank is starting to give me they reached out to me, give me a really good rate. I was like, oh, might have to worry about this refinance now. I got 5.3. So I'm refining those out. So if I can still get that rate, I'm definitely looking again. It's just I haven't found anything that was value add because I can't buy turnkey because that's my entire business model. I have to do the value add, right?
Yep.
And everyone on the MLS at least is looking for like, I mean, I don't blame him. I want 1.1 for my building. I wouldn't pay more than like 950, you know? But so I'm just looking for good opportunities. I haven't found any yet. I think in 25, I'll be a little bit more dialed in. Like, okay, let's find us 20 doors.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you think the mailers will work on that side of the table too, or
That's what I
no?
was gonna
I
ask.
sent them actually. So when I thought I wasn't going to be a flipper anymore, so that like 6 months in or whatever, I sent the mailers out. I was only able to do 700 people for 6 months. I got like 3 calls. One appointment I went to, the guy wanted, what did he want? $1.8 million in Rogers Park for a 6-unit. I said, look, man, this ain't right. I think we're in the wrong place. Or did he want, it was in such an obscene number. I was like, we were about $1 million off for what I was willing to pay and what he was willing to sell it for, right? And even what was on the mail, like the soft offer. No, actually, that was not a soft offer because it was like, hey, if you're interested in selling your apartment building, let me know. Because those, like, you don't even know how to do a soft offer.
Yeah.
So yeah, that didn't work out. I'm sure it would, but I
Hey, you
haven't
could do
had
the
any luck
soft
yet.
offer. You could do it times amount of units. And if you're just going to target a neighborhood, I guess.
Yeah.
No, it's still too.
Yeah, it's tough because
still
1
too-
It's so
bedroom versus
tough,
4
man.
bedroom. Yeah,
That's where
tough.
I think cold calling is so great because when you call a commercial investor, it's like they're an investor. Like this is not the townhouse they moved out of, right?
It's more business.
It's so much
less
more
emotional.
business. So if someone calls me, I'm like, yeah, are you willing to sell it? Absolutely. Let's see what we could do. So I think that's where I might have to end up doing that. Just start cold calling property owners for like 10 units or more and see if I can lock something up.
Yep.
I have one on the back of my mind that I had under contract that fell through, and I'll see if he'll take it. It's in Bridgeview, 11 doors. Super excited about it, but we'll see.
All right. What you mentioned cold calling several times.
Mm-hmm.
You have VAs doing that for you? Are you picking up the phone? Like, is that part of the
VAs.
arsenal right now?
Yeah, so the 2 ways I find deals is one is through the mailers. That's my favorite, but it's super expensive. The other one is I have these virtual callers from Egypt. Like I hired a company. I didn't like train my own VA or anything like that. I'm like, oh, you already got trained people and systems. Take my money and bring me leads. So then they give you like 2-3 people a day, but I always say they say it's warm leads. It's not warm leads, right? I still have to cold call those 3 people, but it saves me I give them a list of 15,000 that they call. So that way they could talk to 100 people. So that way they could tell me the 3 that are worth even having a conversation with. Yeah. I call those 3. So it saves me a lot of time. And in reality, I don't even call those guys because I've just been having like residue deals come my way. I think you guys experienced it if you're in it longer than me. So sure, like you're doing a flip here and then a neighbor shows that wants to sell the house. Like that's how the last couple have actually ended up being. So I'm like, I'll get to those calls when I get to those calls, right? But I did end up buying 2 from them in July. I'm like, you know what? Let me see what's going on here. I paid for this for 2 months. So I sat down. I'm like, I just saw one note. It said, okay, asking 245. No, 250. ARV is 400. I said, huh. Seems like a good idea. I called her.
Mathematician over here.
Right? So I called her, and then she's like, yeah, I would be interested in selling it. And here's what's going on. They were investors, right? I'm like, oh, this is definitely going to be a bad deal. Because why would you, like, you're either screwing me on this one or something not right? So I'm like, why are you selling? She's like, look, we have a development opportunity in Houston, so we need our cash out ASAP. Like, I know we're going to lose money on this, but we're going to make so much more on, like, we need to put the money in ASAP. I said, okay, cool. So I show up. She wanted 260. I apologized. She was a fierce negotiator. I was like, damn. She got me for 257. I was like, I'm not paying a penny over 250 when I walked in there. And then, she got me for 257 because it was a condo in Northbrook, 2-bed, 2-bath. And I just came from Maywood seeing a piece of garbage, right? I'm like, oh, this place just needs floors and cabinets, and the bathroom is already pretty decent, right? I was like, I want this bad. And I knew it was worth 385 to like 400. And she wanted 257. And then we were talking. She's like, look, you're not a lot of people show up with these, a lot of wholesalers, like, yeah, me and my partner will buy it. And she's like, who's the partner? I was like, it's just me. Like, I raise capital, but it's just me. She's like, how much capital? I'm like, how many properties you got? And she's like, I have this deal in Hanover Park too. I'm like, I'll buy it. Can we see it today? So I saw both properties and we put an offer on both. I won on the Hanover Park one, thank God. I had to get some money back for the Northbrook one. I got that for 246.5, 3-bed, 1.5-bath with an addition. And then the Northbrook one got for 257. Both of those are actually, Hanover's the one I got caught without permits. So we're listing that next week. And I just put the Northbrook one under contract to sell for 385. I'm like, thank God. A little nervous about that one. I'll never do that again.
Talk to us, and you've alluded to it a few times.
Yeah.
And I go through this personally as well. Just the liquidity of being a flipper is insane. Just your bank account just up and down, up and down.
Man.
It's so ridiculous.
And I'm always broke. This is upsetting, right? Like, how
the better I do, the less money I have. It doesn't make any sense.
Like, I'm doing 20 ounces this year, but I'm still broke. Yeah.
So just talk about just one, balancing it, understanding where your money's at.
Yeah.
The emotional side of it. Like, people overlook that part of the equation.
That's such a good point. So I am in a unique position because I'm raising money. I don't necessarily have to put too much of my own capital in it. Right. So that's that. And the $200,000, that's not my money, helps a ton. So that's how I'm able to stay at least a little bit liquid and pay all my bills and save some money. And I would suggest anybody doing it instead of because if that's your main source of income and your only source of income, if you make 50 grand every quarter, that's great. Second you spend it, you can't scale.
Yep.
Right. So I think the only way to get past that, where you're not always broke, you have to use outside money, or you have to learn how to get like loans from banks. I just found out because so all my deals are cash. Like, I raise cash for them. So as far as the bank is concerned, I'm doing about $3 million in revenue, right? Because how much if I sell all the flips, that's how much I'll do. I didn't know they'll give you 10 to 20% of your gross revenue as a line of credit. I was like, well, hello, I'll do that. And the interest rate on that is like 9 to 11%, I think, depending on when I get it. So I'm like, that's better than the hard money because with all the fees and stuff I don't have to pay, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, so there's some different ways that you can get access to the capital.
Yep.
Yeah.
What you staying in these burbs here? Like, are you gonna venture outside of Chicago? Are you coming into the city? Like, geographically, are you?
It scares the hell out of me. I like the quiet of the suburbs. The ease of no traffic. If I ever need to get there, so I'm gonna stay in the suburbs. That's what I know. That's what I'm comfortable with. Don't see myself doing anything out of state anytime soon. I think that's for like super rich people. I'm not even close to that. But maybe eventually, like, I'm looking at retail centers and apartment buildings in the next 1 to 2 years, if I can find them. So suburbs or city, I'm open-minded to both for those.
Yeah. Man, we got a lot here.
Yeah, it was.
Got a good time.
That was pretty
Good pivot from 2 years ago.
I know.
From an agent to, I'm just going to flip 10 houses a year.
It's so much easier. The fact that people are selling houses versus owning them and flipping it is ridiculous to me. It's so much easier. Like, I have agents that I know that make like the same money as me, and they're like working every day. And I'm like, if you saw my Instagram, I'm at the pool.
Yeah.
I'm on my boat. I'm at the gym working out for no reason.
For no reason.
What am I doing here, right? I'm bored most. I work 3 hours a day, right? It's so much easier.
Yeah,
100%
and part of having you have the right team, right? Like, that's the biggest thing that gets overlooked is having the right pieces in place. It's deals, it's money, and it's construction. Those are the 3 ways things go south.
Yeah.
You can just solve those 3 equations. Like,
And you have all 3 of those solved.
Yeah.
The deal's still working on. Deal flow is always the problem. But other than that, we're good with the other 2.
Yeah, but you know how to put yourself out there too, find the deals.
Yes,
Like, that's the biggest part. You talk about the credit cards. We're talking about just the way you're approaching it with the baseline offers like that. You're putting yourself out there to set yourself up.
Yeah. All right. Anything else? You ready to wrap?
We'll wrap.
All right, let's do it.
All right, what's your competitive advantage? How have you been able to do this? How have you been able to done so much more in the last 2 years, and others wish they could?
So my competitive advantage is I have a massive reach from social media. So for me, being a realtor for so long, I have a huge following. So whenever I need to raise capital, it's a lot easier for me because I have 8 years of track record that's documented. So I think that gives me a competitive advantage.
All right. What is the one piece of advice you would tell someone that is yet to buy in the Chicagoland area?
Specifically, like locally speaking?
Sure.
Or in general?
Someone looking to get started.
Yeah. I would say don't try to do this on your own and find someone that's actively already doing it and bring them the opportunity that they're looking for. That way you can learn from them and build your track record with their experience behind you.
What do you do for fun?
I used to do Muay Thai before my surgery, so that's gone. I used to go on my boat, that's gone. So now I just drink coffee. I sit on my couch for now. I got back into video games, but I hate them. Like,
So I'll divert a little bit here, but one day on Instagram, you're just like, hey, I just had my spinal infusion and like in a hospital bed. I was like, whoa, everything all right,
it
dude?
shocked me too, man. Yeah. So that kind of put me on my ass. I'm a very active person, right? I like to be around. I hate sitting around the house. Like I say, I don't work much, but rallies, I'm actively always doing something, networking, out and about, right? And this put me on my ass for like, they told me I can't even leave the house. Technically now, but I'm like, come on, man. You see, my head is moving enough. I wear like a neck brace when I'm driving. Other than that, I'm okay. I Ubered everywhere for like a week. That cost too much money. So I'm like, we're getting back on the road. I have drivers every now and then.
Helps me damn.
Yeah, the spine infusion came out of nowhere, but I'm very lucky, man. I think I have like, if the worst case scenarios, I have the best case scenario. So I guess the message I would leave is if you have your health, don't take advantage of it. Like, don't take it for granted. Get in shape, be in shape. So when your body breaks, you're strong enough to like be okay, recover better.
All right. What's a good book, podcast, or self-development activity you'd recommend to our listeners?
Good book, good book. How to Win Friends Influence People is a great book. I love reading books on like technical stuff. So Tax Strategies of a Savvy Real Estate Investor. I love that book, Volume 1, Volume 2. Podcast, Straight Up Chicago, obviously. Silly question. What was the other one?
Self-development activity.
Self-development activity. I don't believe in self-development activities other than go out there and do the work. Right.
Yeah.
So I think like you can read all the books you want, listen to all the podcasts, but you learn so much more by going on an appointment and being told no for XYZ reasons, right? So action.
Yeah. Hermosi's got a few of those quotes where it's like, that guy did 1,000 affirmations today. That guy made 1,000 calls. That guy won.
Right.
Besides yourself, name a valuable resource for other Chicago investors.
I would say my hard money lender and my real estate attorney are both amazing. One gives really good rates and one gives very good service. Do you want their names?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's Eric with RBI Investing, and then the other one is Rudy Manasian, and he's just an attorney locally. So he'll help you out. He knows all my deals, so if you're in investing, he can help you out in everywhere.
All right, we'll link to both of them in the show notes. Aaron, thank you so much. You provide a ton of value to our listeners. We'll shake
Thank you.
hands. Let's do it.
That's right.
How can they learn more about you? Is there any way they can provide value to you?
Absolutely. Just go on my Instagram or my TikTok, AMG Realty, and I pretty much document the whole journey there. If you have any questions, DM me directly. I respond to every single one.
All right, so we got a Chicago fact before we leave. So
let's go.
All right, we're playing for Kasha Gill. And Kasha, if Aram or myself get this right, you will get a $50 gift card brought to you by today's sponsor, Kaiser Group.
All right, let's see if we can get Kaiser Group $50 more in the hole. All right, I remember you're a basketball fan, so
Yes.
A question today, I actually haven't memorized even. Chicago Bulls have 4 jersey numbers retired.
23.
Can you name 2 of them?
23 is easy. I had to get that one out.
Yeah, that's the thing. Can you name one more?
Who's that? Whoever, Scottie Pippen's number. What's Scottie Pippen's number?
33.
33.
There you go.
There
Good
we
job. The other 2, Jerry Sloan was 4, Bob Love was 10.
See, I would never caught that.
I don't even know those 2 names. That's like way before my time.
I figured one was a layup. I was like, yeah, you can do 2 here. Come on.
Yeah, two is fair. Like one's not even reasonable. Yeah.
Kaiser's got enough money. We want to shell out the 50 bones.
All right, man. Kasha, you get $50 gift card brought to you by today's sponsor, Kaiser Group, who actually, when I listened to episode 131, the first one, Kaiser Group was a sponsor then too. So Kaiser, thank you for being our sponsor for this long. So thank you for coming on. Tom, thank you as always. Listeners, leave us a review on iTunes or Spotify, and you can be entered to be the beneficiary of the Chicago Fact that we do that in every episode. So thank you, and listeners, we'll see you next week.